Biohazard warning. Entering contaminated zone. Transmissions jammed. Proximity coverage only. Backup activated. System rebooted.
What's going on, agents? Sly here with another Division video for you. With 1.6 on the horizon and a ton of change coming to the DZ, I've been wanting to make a video on my thoughts about the DZ, what I think reasonable changes are, and bring to light an unheard voice in the world of the DZ and PvP. But before we begin, I'm having some recording problems, as you can probably see, and my program, for some reason, picks up a ton of stuttering all of a sudden. So I apologize about that. Good thing this isn't a guide, right? Anyways, I personally have never been a fan of the DZ. Most of my gaming lies into solo experiences, and it wasn't until Destiny that I even started playing any kind of multiplayer PvE experience at all. And it wasn't until then that I realized the fun and camaraderie such an activity could create. Fast forward a year and a half and the Division beta was out, I couldn't help but dig into the DZ. All of my friends were playing it and I woke up every day actually wanting to go into PvP. However, once the game officially launched, it soon became clear that it was just a phase, and after a while of constantly going in solo to try and rank up, I frankly just became sick of the 4-on-1 attacks. And while I'm no slouch in the Division, I can't defend against 4 players. Maybe 2-on-1 if they're mediocre, but not 4. And despite what other videos you might see floating around on YouTube, I can assure you that a team of 4 decent players can take down any one person by themselves, no matter who they are. Now, it has seemed to have gotten better over the past few months. However, in the world of the internet, a teabagging, comment-trolling asshole is never far away. Now, those moments excluded, I get asked a lot on what I would like to see change, or what I think would be the best way forward. While I don't think I will ever really be a PvP guy, PvPvE, like the Division, has always had immense possibility. While in other games, shooting other players just in different maps, that really isn't my thing. Now, we have the power to change what happens to the Division and to the DZ, so we should be careful what we wish for. One of the biggest problems in Destiny is that the devs cave into the public too much, and while that's not necessarily a bad thing, I don't want my boat renamed Boaty McBoatface either. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this video will fix all of the problems of the Division or the DZ. But I do get asked what I would like to see all the time, and that's what this video will be about. While at the same time reminding everyone that this game rides on other people playing it on both sides of the coin. Surviving and maintaining a healthy player base is key in PvP as well as PvE. So this situation isn't as simple as it might sound, and problems that are now just coming out are from demons that manifested months ago in some other areas of the game. For instance, PvE players going into the DZ and getting killed over and over, because they want better loot more frequently. Also, grabbing 4 people and roaming from challenging boss to boss while in the midst of other players within a huge city, that's a really fun environment. While HVTs were intended to fill that role, it's not really the same thing as getting a group of friends rolling all over the city and being able to choose your own difficulty by just going up a block. The problem wouldn't be this bad if PvE had more options, and I think a lot of this stems from hardcore PvE players like myself, tired of running meaningless search and destroy missions just so we can try to take 20 minutes finding people to run a high-risk HVT. 10 minutes, boom, it's over. You gotta repeat that whole process. Now, while loot is pretty damn good, the DZ has always been the place to go and find the best. Period. So with that comes another problem. Hardcore PvP players usually are the best outfitted because of all the drops they can choose from. I still don't have a decent striker setup, and I've literally been looking for months. Of course, I have a complete set, but it's not the best, and so, that really causes people who normally don't play PvP to go up against teams that play nothing but PvP since the game launched, and that of course means you're probably going to get outgunned and die a lot. Back in the beta, it was fun because everyone had the same setup. The same weapons, the same armor, we were all on equal footing. If you died, it was because you were caught by surprise, going in solo, or your aiming skills weren't as good as the other player across from you. Now though, there are so many ways to outfit yourself that it really confuses newcomers. And if you're a PvE player, your normal setup that works well in an incursion won't necessarily work as well as an optimized PvP setup, and there isn't enough space to accommodate options for both playstyles. Not if you want to keep your options open with multiple weapons and gear sets for different scenarios, as well as filling in for tactical needs. So here are a few things that I can outright say need to be changed in the DZ. First are server group ups, trolling every group that comes in and out. And with that, guarding safe houses and killing spawn players who have just been killed. There's no reason for that, and again, it's probably the same people as I stated above. But that makes anyone rage, and that's not an easy problem to solve. But the option to switch to another DZ instance would be a great way to fix it, as well as an easier reporting system. One that remembers recently seen players where you can easily find them again. I also agree that a game that facilitates 4-on-1 is pretty shitty, but that was a design flaw from the beginning. But since we're stuck with that, we now need to find other ways to make the DZ work for everyone. And I personally don't believe that making the DZ more PvE friendly is the way to do it. PvP is just that. Player versus player. We, as in my fellow PvE players, we have our own area of the game. And just because it's empty doesn't mean that other players should lose their area to facilitate our needs. So next, let's think of how to solve some of these issues. Number one is to basically recreate the DZ in a light zone area after you reach level 30. There's still tons of area outside the playable map where this could easily happen. And this way we could recreate the experience. If it's not a possibility, then make a separate instance of the DZ where PvP is disabled, and I think survival is exactly the kind of structure that would work. Have every other entrance be a PvE entrance, which you would then load into a PvE only dark zone, and of course the other entrances could load you into a normal PvP dark zone. That right there, that would solve a million problems on its own. The only gripe I had, especially at the beginning of the game, is that the DZ had access to the best equipment in the game, and it was the easiest way to get them. That is, if you wanted to put up with PvP fights, and not everyone's up for that. Also, having that area open keeps the multiplayer aspect alive in a PvE environment. You can group up and help out without actually getting worried about those damn stray bullets, which brings me to another point. So many times I have been in the DZ and either shot or shot back from accidental bullet spray. I think a simple system of toggling a player would solve this. If you're not rogue, your bullets will not hurt other players. But if you want to go rogue, simply aiming and tapping A, toggling a player basically, would then open it up for shooting others. Then of course, since you're now rogue, your bullets would affect everyone. This way you can spray into a boss, and if someone else is hiding across the map and also shooting him, and no matter how many bullets hit him, it wouldn't incorrectly trigger you rogue. That right there seems like an easy fix. Now, like I said, you don't toggle everyone. As soon as you click A on one player, that's it, your bullets are hot and they work for everyone. You either do that or simply increase the initial bullet warning. Like the first 10 bullets that hit your first player, while not rogue, won't even register a warning to the other player. It will tell you that you're hitting someone, but not anyone else. That way there's way less room for error. So moving along here, I think the next logical step would be to make PvP a little more fun. Start with creating kill streaks. Now of course bombing runs and helicopters, stuff like that wouldn't really make sense in the Division because it's not like you're always fighting other players in the DZ. But simple things that honor both types of PvP players, rogue and rogue hunters. So say for instance the first 3 kills could instantly give you a buffed up turret, even if all your other skills were something else. 5 kills could keep all players visible in your DZ section for 5 minutes, 8 kills could spawn in your own personal hunter to fight by your side, and 10 kills could give you an LMG hunter. On the other side, if you're a rogue hunter, you could get something like radar ping that shows all active rogues on the map after 5 kills. Or if you're a player entering the fight and you kill the hunter or the rogue and they both have a high kill count, it could drop a special vanity item as like a badge of honor. The higher the kill count of the hunter or rogue, the cooler the vanity item would be, and therefore the more desirable it would be. Super bosses would be great as well. Have one area all of a sudden become PvE only and highlighted on the map along with an alarm. Ads would then flood the zone and a super boss would sit in the middle of it all, and it would take the entire work of the DZ to actually pull together to be able to beat it. Now the only reason why I said PvE only is so that, there's no accidents and then there's fighting in the middle of it. But events like that is what the DZ needs. Simple things like that could make a world of difference, guys. PvP events, PvP assignments, things to do is what this really all boils down to. Loot is everywhere these days. And while currently the DZ is still the easiest place to go and get it, you can get loot elsewhere. In my opinion, too much loot is really dropped, but that's for another video. Alright, so moving on to the last thing, which is one of the biggest, losing your stuff. You know, you fight hard, and sometimes you farm for days, and when you finally get what you want, to only have some dude kill you and to take it. I've been there, you've been there, we all have been there, and it absolutely sucks. I think a good way to combat this would be to add a loot timer. It would work something like this. And first of all, we need way more slots for extraction in the inventory, period. But once you have your loot in the bag, it should count down until it's safe. So basically, the older the loot is within your bag, the safer it is, up until like 5 minutes, and then it can no longer be looted. So say for instance you just killed a boss and you finally have your dream weapon. You know that the next 5 minutes are crucial and you need to be on your toes if you want to keep it. Once 5 minutes or so passes, it's safe in your bag until you extract, but then it's vulnerable just like normal. If you're killed, all the things that you collected within the past 5 minutes can be looted by the guys who killed you. Also, if you don't come back and grab your items within a certain amount of time, let's just say, 3 minutes, then everything will open up for looting again, and once you pick it back up, the 5-minute rule will apply once more. This way you know when you're vulnerable and you can take precautions. Now, of course, guys, all these timings and 5 minutes, that's just stuff off the top of my head. These aren't like final ideas. So moving to extractions, I sincerely hate the rope cutting thing, guys. It's an absolute mess, and it makes no sense. I think alerting the map to your presence by calling in an extraction is long enough. Then add the 30 or so seconds it hovers there. That's a lot of time. If people really want to keep the rope cutting thing, I say make it random. You could guard for 30 seconds, or you could guard for a minute. Keep it, a little interesting if you really want to keep that horrible mess. So moving on to the end, I have one last change that I would personally make, but before I get into that, I want to make sure that I let everyone know my stance on this matter. PvP should be its own thing. I'm not up for lessening the player versus player fighting or trying to make it more PvE than PvP. I think most of the issue stems from there not being enough things to do within PvE. But with that said, I think this game could benefit from a style similar to World of Warcraft, where PvP has its own set of rules, its own loadouts, its own armor, skills, etc. Make it another game within a game. Now, I realize that they wanted to try to make it a fluid experience by walking out of the light zone and into the DZ, and you can use what's on your back right then and there. But just like Destiny, PvE gets hindered by the effects of PvP. Something gets nerfed or changed because it turns out to be too powerful in PvP, and that just sucks for everyone. While Massive is pretty decent at doing some DZ-only changes, it's not all like that. So on top of quick loadouts or quick equip buttons, leveling the playing field is also a huge deal. That's why the beta was so much fun, at least in my opinion. This is all my opinion, guys, remember that. Now yeah, it was fun because it was new, but also because it was skill that stood out, not because someone else had a gear set or a weapon that you don't have yet. I personally think that making the DZ a separate thing within the game, like for instance, in-game you could go to the base of operations and become part of like a DZ task force. You choose your loadout, grab some bounties or assignments, and this way it could easily be tied into the story, as well as control the type of gear the players use. This way the playing field gets equaled a little bit, and skills stand out more so than overpowering tricks or setups. Now, there are, of course, other ways to go at it, like a flagging system, but I'm not a huge supporter of that because going up to somebody and shooting them only to find out that they're not available to kill would only encourage shit-talking, and that's not what the DZ needs any more of. There are a lot of problems, but they're not unsolvable, and most of it stems from the fact that PvE has become so boring, it's flowing over into the PvP world. But there are indeed some things that could greatly benefit the Dark Zone, and while I'm not going to solve anything, we, the community, can. So be civil. Realize that there are other opinions besides your own, and let's reach a consensus together for the betterment of our favorite pastime. But that's it, agents. A little longer than I thought it would be, but that is all good. I can't wait to see what's on the horizon for the Division, so let's hope that there is some good news for both sides of the game. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and feel free to discuss your ideas in the comments below. If you have any idea that you think could be a game changer, I'd absolutely love to hear them. As always, if you want to stay in touch and up to date with everything Division, Destiny, Mass Effect, Andromeda, follow me on Twitter @SlyNation or subscribe to me here on YouTube. Always a pleasure, agents, and keep an eye out for more videos coming out of Sly Nation here soon, guys. But until then, this is your boy Sly. Later, y'all.
Okay, Agent, I'm impressed. Like I'm gonna be too busy.